Today on Keller at Large, WBZ political analyst Jon Keller sits down with the Senate Minority Leader Bruce Tarr.
Good morning. Thanks very much for joining us. You know, in most states, not only does political news die down in the dead of summer, their legislatures aren't even in session, but not so here in Massachusetts, otherwise known as heaven for political reporters, where there's been plenty going on up on Beacon Hill. And here to talk to us about some of the big stories that have been breaking is the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Bruce Tarr of Gloucester, an attorney and a 23-year veteran of the legislature. What, did you come in when you were 14 years old?
Thanks for the compliment, John. I appreciate it a lot.
Do you dye your hair? Be honest.
I don't. I honestly don't.
Really? I do. You should try
I'm glad just to have all of it. I'm not going to change anything else.
All right. Fair enough. Listen, Senator, right after the criminal convictions this past week of former State Probation Commissioner John O'Brien and two of his aides, I spoke with the chair of your party, Kirsten Hughes, and your counterpart in the House, Minority Leader Brad Jones, and they both said this is the result of one-party rule and it proves the need to elect more Republicans. Is that your position as well?
Well, I do think it's helpful to have a different perspective when you're governing state government, and I do think that if you're the party in overwhelming control of state government, you have to accept responsibility for problems that arise, and this is certainly one of those cases.
Well, the three Republicans who've been elected governor here in the past 25 years were all known to engage in patronage hiring, and just a couple of years ago, Bill Weld, one of your political heroes, right, was quoted saying patronage was like Mazola oil, lubricating the political process, and that, quote, criminalizing the Mazola oil was not good for business, end quote. Is that true or isn't it?
Well, I don't think it's true when it comes to systematic manipulation of the process, and that's what you saw here. Certainly folks writing letters of recommendation for their constituents is not an uncommon thing, and I would argue that it's part of the process. If someone comes to you for assistance, they have qualifications, you write a letter for them. That's part of daily life on Beacon Hill and is part of daily life in Massachusetts and everywhere else. But when the system becomes so corrupt that there's a nexus between funding a different department or a specific department and someone getting hired, that's when it rises to the level of impropriety and needs to be acted upon, and that's exactly what the court did.
Well, but that wasn't proven at this trial, that there was a nexus between budgeting, and in fact, Speaker DeLeo is saying, you know, that was an outrageous charge.
Well, you know, here's the thing, John. If you have an allegation that is essentially proven that there was corruption in the system and folks were hiring based on political influence, then you have to ask the question, who influenced them? What's the other half of the equation? And in fact, Prosecutor Ortiz was asked that question just yesterday. Why was one half of the equation brought into court and the other half not? I don't know that she's provided us with a good answer to that, but the fact is, if folks were hiring based on political influence, then doesn't that argue that there had to be political influence in the first place?
Well, is it your contention then that Speaker DeLeo and Senate President Murray, who was also sort of neck deep in dealing with patronage, is it your contention that they're corrupt?
Well, my contention is that we are owed some answers from the U.S. Attorney in terms of how the system worked and a little bit more about why some elements weren't brought more into the process than others.
Clearly, not a single legislator was charged.
Well, and I guess I'm left wondering, like many who are watching the situation, John, if these folks, again, were hiring folks based on political considerations, what were the political considerations and where was the improper pressure being applied? I don't know that we understand the full picture, and I think we need to understand the full picture. But again, I would argue that if you are in overwhelming control of state government, you have to answer for what happens during your tenure.
All right, Senator, we'll take a short break and we'll continue our conversation with the Senate Minority Leader Bruce Tarr in just a moment. Please stay with us.